Well, now that we just had the fallout of Donald Trump winning, I think it's time for me to actually put my thoughts out there on what I think happened. Simply just installing a new Democratic candidate is not going to get people to come out and vote for you. It's just not. And now we already have the media finger pointing on, oh, it's Latinos and black people who didn't vote for Kamala Harris, and that's the reason she lost. That's not the reason she lost. The reason she lost is because she doesn't believe in anything. She was not battle tested. She was thrown into the spotlight in the most contentious political position in the world, and you got the result you got. She got walloped. Versus Donald Trump has been in the spotlight his entire life before he even ran for president of the United States. And now people are like just looking back and forth and being like, we ran a pristine campaign. That was not a pristine campaign. She didn't do any interviews and ran from the media the whole time. And then when she finally was like, well, I got to do some interviews, they were all friendly, besides like one interview on Fox News. That's not being challenged on your positions. That's not giving the American electorate what they deserve, which is to hear you tested by other people who have different ideas from you. And it also doesn't help if you flip flop on literally everything you believed in during the Democratic primary when you ran. I said if Kamala Harris just came out and said, yeah, I want to ban fracking, yeah, I want to give universal health care to people, people would be like, well, she really hasn't changed. But as soon as she gets in there and changes all her positions, people just see you as a robot. And that's why fundamentally I think Kamala Harris was probably the worst Democrat that they could have put up. I did advocate for an open primary because at least the delegates would have to select someone and maybe Kamala Harris would have won anyways. But at least she would have been battle tested by other Democrats. The Republican Party at least is responsive to their voters, and they were like, well, we don't really want Donald Trump, but if they want Donald Trump, we'll give you Donald Trump. Whereas the Democrats do all these political games to not give the voters what they want. It's obvious the Democratic base wanted Bernie Sanders, but they shut that shit down. They didn't give him Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is way too liberal for me, but I do think he'd get us out of some of these counterinsurgency wars that seem to last forever. And one thing President Trump managed to drive home to people is, hey, he doesn't want to start all these wars. But if you embrace people like Dick Cheney, like Kamala Harris did, are you really shocked that people look at you as just a warmonger like the rest of them? Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Donald Trump's a peacenik. He bombed Syria twice. He increased drone strikes over 400%. I have no illusions about Donald Trump. He gives you the vibe that he doesn't want to go to war with other countries unnecessarily. And I actually think he believes that, because he could have gone to war with Iran his first term. He didn't do that. He actually tried to withdraw troops from Afghanistan before he left office, and then he was overruled by the generals. Versus Kamala Harris, people just see her as an empty suit. That's why she lost. At least with President Obama, he didn't appear to be an empty suit. He had his own ideology on how he thought the world should run, but he was a great curator of the system, and he actually pretended to stand for something. Versus Kamala Harris couldn't even pretend to stand for something. That's why she lost to Donald Trump. Because I disagree with Donald Trump on a lot of things, but he did negotiate things like NAFTA, and he deserves credit for that. Versus people who look at Donald Trump just says everything he did was bad. That's untrue. I think all presidents do good and bad things, and I think President Trump should be given a chance this time to see how he does as president. Because his first term as president, he wasn't given a fair shake. They were thinking of ways to impeach him before he even took office, which just shows the ruling class of the United States doesn't care what the American people think. They like to lord over us and pretend that they're for democracy. They're not for democracy. They're in favor of the people in charge, staying in charge, and lording over the rest of us. And Donald Trump being elected is a big fuck you to those people.